this evening at Belvoir Theatre is Mark Colvin's Kidney, and we have the writer in the studio, Tommy Murphy, to have a chat about this production. Welcome to Stages.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. So, this is being commissioned by Playwriting Australia.
Yeah, and Belvoir.
And Belvoir for you to write. So, did you have an idea before they came to you and said,
well,
write something for us?
In a way, yes, I did, but that idea sort of morphed a little bit. Eamon Flack, the artistic director at Belvoir, requested a play that would be local and global, and I thought that the answer to that would probably be a story about a journalist. I'd been interested in journalism already.
Yeah.
I just thought it's a really fascinating time to be looking at the profession. There's so many forces of change on it. So I went on a big hunt and interviewed a whole bunch of journalists.
Like? Others
foreign correspondents and people who had worked in radio, television and print. I actually started writing one about a young journalist who got himself into a bit of trouble in the States, an Australian journalist. And his story turned out to have a happy ending and not a clear second act.
Well, that's not good. That's not drama.
That's good for him.
It was very good for him, and I'm delighted with him. My play fell apart in that moment. But he had said, go and have a chat to my mentor, Mark Colvin. And Mark is that person to a lot of people, I'm sure. He's just such
his voice is so recognisable.
Isn't it? Yeah. He's a seasoned and a journalist of such integrity. So he let me shadow him for an afternoon as he made his program PM at ABC Radio. And I already knew as I went into that chat that there's a play here. I had the title. I had Mark Colvin's Kidney scribbled on my notepad. And Mark started to tell me the story of tracking down Mary Ellen Field. He sent a tweet out because he wanted to keep phone hacking at the forefront of PM. And he didn't know if Mary Ellen Field barely used her account at that time, but he didn't know if he'd get a reply. But he needed an Australian angle. And he said to me that afternoon that also you need people to tell a story. Well, I knew that to be true from my job. And also knew that I had to get his, that he was one of those people I needed. And I needed to get his permission and trust, but that was all ahead of me. But this story of Mary Ellen is extraordinary. She is Elle Macpherson's business advisor, and
or was.
Sorry, that's right. She was in 2005 when these articles started to appear in News of the World, and there was only one explanation that Elle could see, that she must be unhinged or maybe drunk, because Mary Ellen Field was such a trusted advisor and confidant, and so she said, "Mary Ellen, you're going off to celebrity rehab." And Mary Ellen did that to keep her job. I mean, this is the kind of strange story that it is. These strange choices that happened under extreme pressure and duress. And there is a lot of suffering in this story, but it arrives at this very surprising personal triumph of a life-saving gift.
And do we find out about the leaks in the story? Yeah,
it's all part of it. Elle Macpherson is played by Helen Thompson.
Oh, I love Helen Thompson.
She's such a great comic, and it's a very clever portrayal that Helen gives us. I mean, all of the real people that are depicted here, I think, strike that balance of not being an impersonation, but being these original characters that the actors have created, that are truthful, that are anchored in the facts, but are also, dramatic characters.
So is this the early kind of before phone hacking has come into the press so much now? Was this sort of the early days of it?
Yeah, it's at that baffling time where people couldn't explain what was happening. How on earth did that information go? And the hacker's trick was so simple. Back in the day, then people weren't changing the factory set pin on their mobile phone. So just remotely dialing in and listening to this juicy gossip. And then printing it in the newspapers. It's a simple trick, but it had a devastating impact on Mary Ellen Field. She was described in the Leveson inquiry as collateral damage. It's very much that. Like, her whole life disappeared. It was, fractured by this. Her whole life suffered this fall from grace in her professional reputation, her health. She just developed this strange illness that was very hard to diagnose, and she also, which is interesting, she's a member of the Tory party. She's somebody who believed she had access to power, who trusted in the rule of law, and all of those structures.
And an Australian in another country.
That's right.
As
Yeah,
well.
that's right. Yeah, I mean, there's a few key Australian players in and around this story. Elle Macpherson, Rupert Murdoch,
yeah, it's
Mary
funny,
Ellen Field,
yeah.
out there on the international stage. Yeah.
And so, how does the kidney start to come in? You know.
Well, it's I guess it's the reason why it's called Mark Colvin's kidney in many ways is because that is the emblem of this this sort of grace that is found in the story, and a surprising grace that comes out of the turmoil.
I don't know what the kidney is.
Well, you don't know what the kidney is, in terms of what this organ is.
The story.
Oh, right, okay.
No, we have two of them.
Yeah, you got two of them, and that's
One,
weird.
you can
Why
give
do we
away
have
one.
two? You can give away one.
Exactly.
The body has given us this redundancy or this ability for generosity.
Mark Colvin needed a kidney, did he?
Mark Colvin developed chronic illness back when he was reporting the Rwandan genocide at first. This mysterious disease got into his body, and there's decades of chronic illness that followed, including kidney failure. And he really was at death's door. And Mary Ellen Field had met him via that tweet that he sent to request telling her story.
So that's the first meeting?
That's the first meeting. But they remained pen pals, not even being physically in the same place for a long time. She knew, she had a hunch that she was able to save his life.
Right.
And the way that plays out is kind of miraculous, that she had this spiritual certainty that she'd been put on this earth to save him. And Mark said no, because he wasn't going to let her, particularly because he hadn't met her, let her risk her life. And that maybe she wasn't entirely doing it for the right reasons. I don't know. You know, that's a question that the play, the play asks that question. What is she trying to correct about her view of the world by giving this kidney?
Sure.
What are her true reasons? The play deals with that question. And
did that come up through your interviews with him?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he was very resistant to this. He didn't want to put someone else at risk. He had been through a lot of surgery himself, and he was fearful of that. But he also admitted to me that there might be some other deeper reasons for saying no to that act of generosity. And so the play deals with all of that.
And how long did it take to write this?
I was sat down
shadowing him.
Yeah, that was the end of 2015.
Okay.
So not that long really, as far as plays go. I guess because there was this existing extraordinary story that had so many components to it, and it was just about a choice of how to find a focus to that. And the focus is very much about the gift. It's about Mark Colvin's kidney. Mark Colvin's kidney sits inside Mary Ellen Field's body at the start of the play, before the transfer.
Yeah. What's interesting about this kind of thing, I think, is that you see these stories often, or about someone that something tragic has happened and their life is ruined by it, and then you go, oh, that's terrible. But this is now 10 years later or so. For how is she now, and how was it speaking with her about
she has said to me, because the other thing that happens, and I don't want to give away the story, but Mary Ellen Field really does try to seek justice in the conventional way. She tries to go to the courts.
Right.
She tries to, get compensation from News of the World, the publishers of News of the World, and she fails. Without giving away the end of the story, Mary Ellen Field really does sort of suffer on that front.
Yeah.
But has this other victory.
Other way.
Write
things for herself.
I think that's probably the heart of this story. There's a certain point when Mary Ellen Field finds that doors are closing in her face. She's not going to get justice the way she can, and even she finds that the world she exists in is kind of devoid of morals. And there's one thing you can do at that moment, and that's take charge of your own actions. Yeah. And that's what Mary Ellen Field does.
That's right. Wow, it sounds exciting, and it's opening this evening.
And
you've got this wonderful Sarah Pearce.
Wonderful Sarah Pearce, John Howard playing Mark Colvin, Christopher Story, Peter Carroll, the beautiful Peter Carroll, and Kit Esaroso, who's making his Sydney debut tonight. And in the audience we have Mark Colvin and Mary Ellen Field. So,
wow, what a night.
That's going to be great. How long does it run for?
We're on all of March here until the 2nd of April at Belvoir, and then we go to Parramatta Riverside.
Oh, fantastic.
Tommy Murphy, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.